As many of you know, Break is by far one of my favorite archetypes in the entire game. I've had Firefly ever since she came out, I got Dahlia on her release, Fugue is my favorite character in the game, and I have used Break to cheese just about every King stage since Dahlia came out. It is by far one of the most fun teams that I have really enjoyed having it at a higher investment, and it has paid off an immense amount, allowing me to clear most content with relative ease. I think it is easily the best investment you can make across the board right now, besides just investing in whatever the newest team type is. It is strong, it ignores mechanics, and it has aged incredibly well. And that is what we're going to be talking about today, viewers. I'm going to talk about all of the Break characters, why they're good, how Break as a whole can function in a bunch of the endgames, and talking about the investment path you should be looking for if you want to invest in Break. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, become a YouTube member down below. And with that said, let's get into it. Let's pause and take a brief word from our sponsor, Gamesco. As Star Rail constantly releases characters better than the last, players won't have enough Jades to keep up. This is where the sponsor of today's video comes in, Gamesco. This is an all-in-one marketplace for all your favorite games and services. They offer top-ups at a more affordable price than in-game, and can even activate your first top-up bonus if you haven't used it already. It's also totally safe, not requiring any of your login information, and having a money-back guarantee. All you have to do is click the bundle you want, put in your server and UID, and your top-up will appear in-game shortly after. On top of all of this, they offer top-ups for more than HSR, having offers for ZZZ, Genshin, Wuthering Waves, and so much more. You can use my link in the description or pinned comment to start saving now. Thank you to Gamesco for sponsoring, and now, let's get back to the video. So, I want to open this video up by talking about Break versus DOT. The reason I think Break and DOT are such good teams to invest in is because of the fact that they simply ignore most game mechanics, or they have game mechanics that are specifically suited towards them. This would be an example like the DOT Fish. Then for Break, you have something like Judge of Oblivion, who is very much suited for Break, but you still kind of need Donhung PT sometimes. Then Great Septimus fell over very easily to Break. Scarabaz fell over very easily to Break. DOT has also just managed to always stay relevant in some way, shape, or form, and has incredibly powerful investment as well. So why exactly am I recommending Break investment over DOT investment? I do think they're both good. I have both teams and I love both teams, but quite simply, I think Break is simply in a better spot. DOT has had a free Kafka, has had RE2 Heislin's reruns, has had Black Swan buffs, and can work in a sustainless style if you wanted to do like Cyrene with Heislins, or you can do any sustain of your choice, and they all work pretty well. Hole is great, DHPT is great, and Hyacinth's just good for keeping everybody alive. The reason I don't have DOT valued quite as high as Break is purely because the investment levels of Break, I feel like it give far better return than DOT does. Not to mention, Firefly also received a buff like Black Swan did, and quite simply, Dahlia Firefly I feel like is just a stronger combo than Heislin's Black Swan Kafka. Now, if you are using a different Break character other than Firefly, that could change a little bit. DOT might pull back ahead, but for the most part, I do still stand by Break just being stronger overall. Not to mention, there are more fights that any Break character in the game can invalidate compared to what DOT can invalidate. If you just put them side by side, I feel like Break has significantly more bosses that it is better suited for, and that is why I'm saying you should be focusing on investing in Break specifically. DOT, still great, absolutely would love the team type. We will probably make a video like this for them as well. But today, we're focusing on Break. So now, what I want to get into is a bit more of why Break is so specifically strong. So besides just having very good Eidolons all around, like Fugue E2 giving you a free built-in dance, Dahlia E1 making it so that everybody on your team can basically do damage of the dance partner, Firefly E2 giving you a whole extra turn, almost every single attack that you do. It doesn't even stop there. Rappa E1, incredibly good. Bootill E1, incredibly good. Break overall has some of the strongest Eidolons in the game, but that is still not as much what I want to focus on. It is mainly on the fact that they are able to brute force almost any fight in the game that you need them to brute force. That is the most impressive part about Break in my opinion, and why I think it is so worthwhile, is because you can throw them into almost every single scenario, and if you play well, if you are prepared, or if you have a bit of an Eidolon boost, you can manage almost any fight in this game with break. So for some examples, I'll throw them up on screen if I have them. I managed to beat Full Wish with E2 Firefly. I managed to 3-star the King stage of the Great Septimus. I managed to beat Scarabaz with E2 Firefly. I managed to 3-star Mecha Pom Pom the King stage with E1 Firefly, E1 Dahlia, E1 Fugue. And there are so many other bosses that you can still manage to beat with any of these teams. Because we can look at Hule. Bootill rips Hule apart. Aventurine. Bootill rips Aventurine apart. You have a lot of different bosses just across the board that can be beaten by break. The only examples I don't think are as prominent for break to manage are going to be somebody like Lygus, which even then, there is a very popular video that I've talked about before of a Bootill player managing to 0-cycle Lygus. That was incredibly impressive. That's a sick video. I'd recommend watching it. And then there's something like Sparksy. Sparksy is very easy for Firefly specifically to beat. Besides Firefly, I'm not gonna lie, Bootill and Rappa I don't think have nearly as much fun. I think it's a bit better for Rappa at least, but Bootill, oh my god, keep Bootill away from Sparksy. That fucking fight is atrociously unfun. With that in mind though, that is still only like, what, 2 to 3 boss fights that I've mentioned that were really not great for break, and everything else is either doable or genuinely a positive position. That is unbelievable. That speaks a lot to the power of this team type and what they are truly capable of. As you kind of learn more about them, as you get the characters you need, and as you continue to invest in them and just make them way stronger than they were previously. Overall, they have an immense amount of tools at their disposal to deal with so many of the different fights in this game, and it is genuinely super nice. Ever since the inclusion of the Dahlia, where she can now just help you break things that aren't even like in a weakness state, ever since then, it's been all downhill for basically every other team in the game. You might as well just grab break because nothing can stop you. The main weakness of the team has been invalidated by the Dahlia, and that can now take us into talking about all of the individual characters. We're gonna go through a few different characters today, so I'm gonna try and keep it relatively rapid fire so we're not here for 30 years. Starting with the Dahlia, she is the key point to any good break team. You absolutely want her on the team, no questions asked. Her kit is incredibly designed, allowing her to do a decent amount of damage, but at the same time, massively boosting your break damage for whoever your DPS is, or for your entire team at large. She has a built-in skill point refund. She has an amazing ultimate that reduces defense and can implant weaknesses. She has a built-in weakness break efficiency buff, so you don't have to rely on Ron May as much either, or better yet, run her and Ron May in the same team, and you will still get an immense amount of value out of that. And her light cone and eidolons are fantastic. Her light cone gives an immense amount of damage boost for your break team. E1 and E2 do the exact same thing, giving absolutely incredible damage multipliers. The character is simply great. I absolutely love what she brings to any team with a break character, and the design overall is exactly what break needed. Just an immense power boost compared to where they were beforehand when they were struggling immensely. This was absolutely needed, and I feel like Dahlia accomplished all of that and more. Like I said earlier, this is what you should be focusing on for your break team. Even if you cannot get a DPS for her, get the Dahlia first. You absolutely need her. Moving on from the Dahlia, let's stay on the topic of supports and talk about Fugue. So Fugue is in a pretty interesting spot right now because she has actually seen some of her usefulness get yoinked by Mortonak's Blade. What a time to be alive, folks. Mortonak's Blade is very strong. He is just the best general purpose debuffer in the game right now, does great damage all on his own, and he can fit in with a break team, especially if you're doing a Firefly break team, because he is fire elemented. Is this like a coincidence? Why are they doing this? Why does this keep happening? Anyway, random coincidences, wink wink aside, Fugue and Mortonak's Blade serve very different purposes. Blade is obviously meant to be run more with hyper carry teams, crit teams, all that good stuff, but because of just how strong he is, he does fit in with a lot of the break teams. However, Fugue is a very good character. Once again, her Eidolon investment is unbelievable. At E1, she gives you even more weakness break efficiency. E2, she gives you dance, dance, dance on her ultimate. That is unbelievable. Lastly, while her base kit is nowhere near as impressive right now, there is something that is still very essential as a part of it. It is going to be her exo toughness. Whenever you break a target, you will see another break bar that is in red and is significantly weaker than their normal break bar. Fugue offering this is very, very important. The one distinction is Firefly does not need it as much. Firefly, especially if you have E2, you can run other characters instead of Fugue and still get a similar amount of value because of the way that Firefly E2 works. You're constantly doing a bunch of extra toughness reduction. You're constantly still doing a bunch of damage. You can get away without it. If you are using Rappa or Bootill, however, this is a non-negotiable. You should be getting Fugue on your account. The reason is because Rappa and Bootill are not super break DPS. They are break DPS. These two characters need to focus on actually breaking the characters around them as much as possible. It gives them energy. It is how they do most of their damage. It is the crux of their gameplay. And Fugue allowing characters like that to break twice, maybe even in one attack, that is unbelievably important. That is what you need on that team to make those characters excel. Even if you have Dahlia, even if you have both other break supports with Ronmei and HMC, you really, really, really want Fugue. It is not up for debate. She is that much more important for the other two break characters. She's still really good for Firefly too. I want to clarify that. She is still very, very good for Firefly. That is what a lot of the clears that you see are going to be using, is an E1 or E2 Fugue. She is still unbelievably important. If you look at a tier list, she is slightly below Dahlia, and that is fair. I do understand why they have placed her like that, because Dahlia is just the all-in-one package. Fugue is still going to be your second best option for every single break team and should be a part of it. Once again, it is honestly fair to say if you are not going to be using Firefly specifically, you should be getting Dahlia and Fugue before your main DPS. It's a bit of a bold take, but I absolutely stand by it. I think that these two, and especially having the combination of them both, is in fact that important. Alright, so I feel like I've already talked about Firefly pretty extensively, so I would rather talk about probably the most interesting break DPS in my opinion, which is going to be Bootill. Now, I've developed a much bigger appreciation for Bootill over the years because I have met multiple Bootill players who did not tell me to walk into oncoming traffic. That really did happen, by the way. So I actually quite like the character, and I started to understand far more how he works. This character is a lot of planning. He is very much built upon having good builds and having very specific builds before you start a fight, and then once you go into the fight, there is a lot of thinking, planning, and adjustments that need to be made. Bootill is one of the most skilled characters in the game, purely because you need an out-of-combat skill with him. You need to make sure your builds are correct and are built and are adjusted for the fight that you're going to be doing, because sometimes you need to be a bit faster, sometimes you need to be a bit slower. And at the same time, there is also a lot of in-combat skill, because you need to get pocket trick shot stacks. This is how Bootill increases his damage, his weakness break efficiency. This is the most important aspect of Bootill, is pocket trick shot stacks. You really need those. So you need to target small mobs because those are easy to kill. Those are easy to beat in duels. You need to make sure you can take those out, and then that's when you can start working on the bigger enemies, the elites, the boss, all that good stuff. This is a character who really, really requires a lot of very specific actions, very specific timings. It is not easy to just walk in, make him work, there you go, you're done. That is not how Bootill works. You need to think ahead. You need to have a plan in mind. You need to know what you're doing. It is not just like a mono rem hit E 30 times button. It is not going to be the Finon gameplay of, okay, I got my ult, time to just mash counter into my meteors. Now, I will say, I think Finon does have a lot more skill involved with his gameplay. His skill is mainly just the out-of-combat skill, like I mentioned earlier, of perfectly tuning his team to him. But it's still skill regardless. I don't want to make people think I'm pushing on Finon has no skill agenda. That's absolutely wrong. But yeah, back to Bootill. This character is very difficult, and I want to make sure that it is known. He takes a lot of effort and a lot of skill. However, he has an incredibly high skill ceiling that is just about equal to Firefly if you know what you're doing with the same investment. And that is genuinely incredible to see. He is still a very worthwhile character, and he is absolutely worth the investment if you would like a single target character specifically. He is absolutely worth that. Alright, so I've been doing a lot of sunshine rainbows talk about Break. You know, I have fun with the archetype. I really love a lot of the characters. There's one I don't like, and it is unfortunately Rappa. I think Rappa is very heavily disrespected. The problem is that I personally didn't like her that much in the story. I think she has a great backstory. The problem is her story was so miserable, I just was barely paying attention at that point because it was like 2 straight hours of banana. Like, I'm gonna kill myself. Rappa gets a really short end of the stick, not only in player appreciation, but especially gameplay wise. Because right now, Rappa gets absolutely dumpstered the most by the current endgame and by the actual Break supports. So with Rappa, first of all, Fugue, once again, unbelievably essential. You really need Fugue for Rappa. That's the first thing. Second, Dahlia. Dahlia is the most built for Firefly. We all know that. There's literally a trace in there that says if you implant Fire Weakness, you regenerate energy. That is so hand-built for Firefly, and we all know that. However, Bootill can still at least take advantage of the speed trace. Bootill can at least take advantage of the speed effect on that same trace, because Bootill can implant a weakness. He can implant it with his ultimate. Rappa, on the other hand, Rappa can't do anything. Rappa just straight up can't do anything, and it sucks. Rappa cannot implant. The only thing Rappa can do is she can break through weakness bars regardless on her ultimate. You need Dahlia and Fugue to make this character work to her maximum efficiency, and her maximum efficiency isn't even to that of Bootill. Bootill is just straight up better than Rappa is with these same characters. And that's just sad. Like, it's not even like an argument of like, oh man, who's the best? Firefly, Bootill, Rappa. Like, Firefly is so far ahead in first place, and then I think Bootill is very much above Rappa. They obviously excel in different forms of content. I'm well aware of that. That doesn't change the fact that I feel like Bootill is just still overall better than Rappa is right now. And that really sucks. She does have very unique aspects to her, but there is just only so much you can do when these supports just simply work better for other characters. And I know Rappa fans are going to be sad about that. You should be. You have been very much slighted by the game. You should have gotten a Nova Flare by now. You deserve better. And you're just not getting it, and that sucks. Rappa is still worth getting. She is still a good character who exists and can be very strong, but ultimately, if you want the best that you can get, I truly do think investing in both other Break DPS is far more rewarding. Yeah, I'm very sorry, Rappa. So, alright, that is the main 3 Break carries out of the way. So now, I actually want to talk about a bit more of why I was saying you should always get Dahlia and Fugue before you get your main DPS. This is because HSR honestly has a lot of characters who can very much make use of Break in a very strong way. The main examples are Ejayy, March 7th Hunt, and Himiko. These 3 characters can all make use of Break to an incredible level. Starting with Ejayy and March, these are 2 4-stars that you can get. March 7th Hunt is completely free, by the way. March 7th Hunt has a built-in skill that actually helps her even more with being a Break character. If she is to use her skill on a Nihility or Harmony character, increase her toughness reduction by 100% or something like that. It is a pretty good number, and it helps an immense amount with actually getting breaks. Now you have that comboed with the weakness break efficiency from your other characters, March 7th Hunt becomes a very solid character, capable of outputting an immense amount of damage for absolutely free for a little bit if you don't have a proper break DPS. Then we have Ejayy, a character you can get from the 4-star gacha, a character you can get by doing pulls. She is built for Break. You invest into her on break fully, she gets a substantial damage boost, and she'll still have a bunch of break effect, and she attacks constantly, being able to output a bunch of break damage. She also has an incredibly powerful ult that, if it breaks, does even more damage. This is a character who was very much built for break before super break ever existed. And while it does screw her over a little bit, she's not going to be as strong as those premier DPS. That doesn't mean she is weak either. She is very, very powerful and capable of doing a lot of things that other premium DPS can do if you have her with a break team. It's the same way that Xingshui kind of got resurrected a little bit with Sparkle. Having Dahlia around makes Ejayy so much more powerful. And again, if you do not have a break DPS to take advantage of those two characters, but if you have a Ejayy, you are going to be sitting relatively pretty. She is absolutely strong enough to do it. There is an entire Twitter account dedicated to showing that. You know what to do. Flash it on screen. Yeah, this person, they show that Ejayy can do a lot. Trust me, great character. I personally love her a lot. You should try her if you haven't. Last but not least, we have our sort of erudition replacement for Rappa, Himiko. Himiko serves incredibly as a break character because of the way her mechanics work. If you can trigger her follow-up and you have Fugue and Dahlia, you can basically get unlimited follow-ups throughout an entire wave of pure fiction. I have shown it on screen multiple times in other videos, and I'll show it again. Once the saw starts, it doesn't stop. I believe there's a clip where Himiko does 9 straight follow-up attacks and just destroys the entire wave. Himiko is, in fact, that good in pure fiction, and especially if you have some investment for her. Genuinely, such a powerful character, works as a great replacement. I've gotten 40k so many times in pure fiction thanks to Himiko. There's really nothing bad about it. If you have a Himiko, you don't need any Eidolons. The only thing you need is the light cone of the lunaefall so that you get some additional break effect. There you go, you're ready to go. That should get you at least a 30k in pure fiction. All E0. She is a great character for it. She's not going to be as good in something like Apocalyptic Shadow or something like MOC. MOC obviously can depend, but for the most part, she's not as great there. But still, having a character that can dominate an entire mode for basically free by just having those two supports and Himiko, that is absolutely worthy of a mention. She serves really well as a break substitute in an AoE setting. I cannot recommend her enough. And last but not least, Firefly. Yeah, she's the strongest one in the game. Again, I've shown so much footage. There's so much footage on my channel of Firefly destroying things. Show the most recent King Clear, like she beat Full Wish, she beat Scarabaz. Yeah, this character's broken. She works the best with Dahlia. End of the story. It's not that exciting comparatively. You can do really cool things with her. Like I got a 3975 clear on Cocolia with E2 Firefly. That was awesome. Yeah, she's just the strongest, plain and simple. So keep that in mind if you would like to get a very good character. So now the last thing I'm going to talk about very briefly is going to be the investment path for the characters. This is not 100%. I did not pre-check this information. I'm not going to lie. I'm kind of just going off of what I know and what I've seen like on Twitter and seen in like Reddit threads, all that good stuff. This is going to be just the general path you want to take when investing in your break characters. So first of all, whatever DPS you have, no matter what, you want the Dahlia first. No matter what, you want the Dahlia first. Genuinely, she is that good. Then you are going to want Fugue. Again, for Firefly specifically, Fugue is not as essential, but if you're getting everybody E0, S0, I do think Fugue genuinely does offer a fair amount. I genuinely do think Fugue does still offer enough to be on that team. And then when it comes to the other two break TPS, Fugue is absolutely essential there. No arguments, no nothing. You need Fugue for both those other teams. Once you have those two done, you do not need Lingshot. Let's just be honest, you do not need Lingshot. You can fill in with an HMC, or you can fill in with a Ron Mei. I would recommend more HMC, but he's been pretty taken now. Bootill or Rappa can kind of suck because you need those constant breaks. So that can be a bit rough, but overall she still works. Now, when it comes to your further investment, first things first, Dahlia is probably going to be the priority. Her Eidolons are incredibly strong, and especially her light cone. Her light cone is a very, very good. If you are doing an E1 versus the light cone, I am pretty sure the light cone wins out by a fair amount. Dahlia light cone is great, increases your damage by a heavy amount, absolutely great for utility, cannot recommend enough. Then you have the Eidolons. For Firefly specifically, getting her E2 is going to be the most powerful boost you can get. That is the big thing. That E2 is unbelievable. If you cannot get the E2, then getting Dahlia Light Cone and Dahlia E1 is also unbelievably substantial damage increases. Then her E1, it offers a little bit more damage, and it's really good for comfortability since you will no longer lose skill points. That is pretty nice. Firefly Light Cone, not that important, I'm not gonna lie. You can either do Firefly Light Cone, or you can do Finon Light Cone, because it gives a bunch of base speed, which is really, really nice. She also has pretty suitable alternatives just in the base game, so overall her Light Cone situation, not as much what you should be worrying about compared to her Eidolons and her Team Eidolon. Overall, the last thing you should probably be getting, overall, between the Firefly and Dahlia Eidolons, after you get like an E1 or E2 of all of those, that is then when you can be getting Fugue E1, and it will be pretty nice. That's how her investment path kind of shapes out. Now, looking at Bootill, once again, Dahlia, Fugue, have your priorities set. Getting the light cones is also very, very nice. I still think getting the light cone is very good, but then after like a Dahlia E1, Fugue E1 should be way higher on your list, I'm not gonna lie. You can honestly get that as well before Dahlia E1, but I don't think it's as important. It is just a very, very nice weakness break efficiency boost, which is what he really, really wants. This is very, very good to have. And then after that, then I would recommend investing in some of the E2s. And Bootill's own E1, I would say invest in the supports first. After you get your supports invested in, Bootill E1, very, very nice, absolutely worth a pull. It makes your starting position so much better and allows you to get to your major damage way faster. So after your sports, that is definitely the solid pull to go with. Last but not least is Rappa. Yeah, it is going to be actually very similar to Bootill. The biggest thing with Rappa is that you either need to get her E1 or her light cone because it helps with her energy issues. If you do not have either of those things, yeah, her energy issues are abysmal. You need to rectify that some way. Honestly, after you have your supports, I would honestly argue that getting the light cone or an E1 is more important than improving your supports. It is genuinely that big of a difference with how much of a pain in the ass Rappa is to play. It makes her so much better. So that is the one difference I'm going to say for Rappa. Get the light cone very early on. The same thing applies for Bootill, by the way. His light cone is also very, very nice. Technically, it's not quite as essential to his character as Rappa's is for her. I would still not get the light cone for a substantial amount of time. It helps him an extreme amount. It is very, very important. And yeah, that wraps us up for today. A little bit long at the end, and I apologize for that. Probably should have thought that one through a bit more, but I think I got everything out that I wanted to say, and I think it all made sense. Once again, I absolutely love Break. I think it is very interesting, very unique, and most importantly, very, very fun to play once you get a lot of that investment, or even without it. It's just a great team type overall, and there is a lot of enjoyment to be had with any of these characters. I really cannot recommend it enough. It is going to still be strong for quite a while, so if you are somebody interested in it, I would highly recommend looking into it. Get some characters, and then just enjoy yourself. See what sort of shenanigans you can pull off. That'll be all for today, so really hope you guys enjoyed. I've got plenty more good videos coming out soon, and I'll see you guys then. Bye-bye!